Hello, this is Ms. Harris here to talk to you about multiplying whole numbers and fractions. First, we have our steps. Remember that all whole numbers can become a fraction by putting a 1 as the denominator. So step 1, you're going to change your whole number into a fraction by putting the 1 as the denominator. Step 2, you're going to multiply your top numbers together. Step 3, multiply bottom numbers together. Step 4, work it out. And step 5, you're going to simplify or divide. Just depends on the answer that you get. Remember that if given a whole number times a mixed number, you change the mixed number into an improper fraction first and then follow the same steps. So let's practice that today. I have 4 times 1, 6. So my very first step, I have a whole number and I have a fraction. Remember, in math, we only combine things that look alike. So I need to make this 4 become a fraction. So what I do, I give it a denominator of 1 and I write the rest of my problem. Now I'm ready to work. Step 2 says multiply your top numbers together. The next step, multiply your bottom numbers together. And now I'm ready to work it out. 4 times 1 is 4. 1 times 6 is 6. Remember, anytime we get a fraction as an answer, your last step is to always simplify or divide. Well, for this step, I don't need to divide with the house because my big number is on the bottom. So therefore, it's not an improper fraction. So I do need to simplify. So simplifying, if you don't know how to simplify, you can always go back into my video list and find simplifying fractions and work on this step. So I make my list of factors. Next step, I circle the numbers that are in common. And out of what I circled, I use it to divide. The biggest number that I circled was 2. Whatever you do to the top, you do to the bottom. 4 divided by 2. If you have a hard time with division, especially when we get into bigger numbers like later in the video, all you do is look at your list. 4, I find the number 2, and I'm looking for what it was multiplied with, and it was a 2. I go to my 6, find the number 2, what it was multiplied with was 3, so that's my answer. My final answer is 2/3. Let's try another one. Remember to press pause, work it out on your own, and then press play to check your answer when you're done. So now I have 3 times 6 over 8. First step is to make my whole number a fraction by putting a 1 at the bottom. Now, step 2, my top numbers multiplied together, my bottom numbers multiplied together. Work it out, 18 over 8. Now, I see that I have an improper fraction because my biggest number is on the top. You don't just switch it, you have to divide with the house to fix it. And we write what we say. So I see I have 18 is over 8. Next step, make your list of multiplication facts. This process is also a video in my video list on the channel. It is long division process. That's the name of the video, long division. So you want to practice these steps. There is a video for it. So I have 8, 16, and 24. We're looking for the closest that you can get to 18. And I have 16 because you cannot go over the number that you're looking for. 8 is already outside the house, so 2 goes outside and 16 at the bottom. Subtract is 2. Remember, circle your important numbers to create your mixed number. Denominator always stays the same. Whatever's on top of the house is your whole number. Whole numbers do what? Stand alone. And then I have my 2 as a remainder. Now I'm ready to simplify. Make my list. Circle what's in common. And I'm bringing my whole number down so I don't forget it. Now I'm ready to divide by 2 because that was the biggest number I circled. keeping my whole number first. 2 divided by 2 is 1. 8 divided by 2 is 4. And my answer is 2 1/4. Next problem. Remember to press pause, work it out, then press play. Now, I know you see big numbers. Don't get afraid. Same steps, just bigger numbers. So the first thing, I need to make my whole number be a fraction. Next step, multiply my top numbers together and multiply my bottom numbers together. Okay, so 25 times 2. All you do is get your scratch paper or find you some more room on your board and work it out like a regular multiplication problem. 5 times 2 is 10, 0, carry the 1. 2 times 2 is 4, plus 1 is 5. So that's 50, and 100 times 1 is 100. Now, those that need an area model to help you multiply with bigger numbers, you get your scratch paper, draw out your area model. Remember to split your numbers up that you're multiplying with expanded form and do what you need to do in order to get the same answers. Okay, so I have 50 and over 100. I don't need to divide because 100 is bigger than 50 and it's on the bottom. So I'm ready to simplify. 1 times 50, 2 times 25, 5 times 10. Those are the ones I know off of the top of my head. 1 times 100, 2 times 50, and we know 10 times 10. So let's take what we do know and use it. So 1 and 1, 10 and 10, 5 would be somewhere. So let's go with 10. Right now, 10 is the biggest that I have circled. So let's see if that will put me in my simplest form. So 50 divided by 10, whatever I do at the top, I do at the bottom. So 50 over here, I go to 10, I multiply with 5, so 5. And then 100, I'm using 10, I multiply with 10. Now looking at 5 and 10, remember anything that ends with a 5 or a 0 can always be simplified or divided by 5. So I'll divide again because I want it in simplest form. So 5 divided by 5 is 1. 10 divided by 5 is 2. So my final answer would be 1/2. And the reason I end up simplifying again is because we had bigger numbers to break down and you want it in the smallest possible form. Okay, try another one. All right, so this problem, I notice I have a whole number and I have a mixed number, 7 times 2 2/5. So I already know that I'm going to be making 7 be a fraction, but 2 2/5, I have a fraction and a whole number, and I want just fractions. So we're going to change this mixed number into an improper fraction. Remember, there is also a video for this step. It's called making improper fractions. So those steps, and you can practice those steps with that video. But you plus at the top, times at the bottom. We always multiply first before we add in math. So 5 times 2 is 10, plus the 2 at the top gives me 12. So it'd be 12, and your bottom number always stays the same. Okay, now I'm ready to multiply. So 12 times 7. I don't know 12 times 7 off the top of my head, so I go to the side and work it out. 7 times 2, 4, carry the 1. 7 times 1 is 7, plus the 1 I carried is 8. So 84 over 1 times 5 is 5. Definitely an improper fraction. How do we fix it? We divide with the house. I write what I say or see. 84 over 5. Now, I make my multiplication facts for 5. Now, if you notice, that would be a long way for me to try to find 84. So what we do in division, you take one number at a time. Start with one number at a time. If 8 was not big enough to make a group of 5, you would just tag along and make a bigger number with the 4. But first I want to look for 8 in my list. So 5 times 1 is 5, 5 times 2 is 10, 15, and 20. So I'm looking for just 8 right now, and 5 is the closest I can get with just 8. So 5 is already outside the house, so 1 goes on the top, 5 at the bottom, and I subtract. Gives me 3. Now, normally I know you're used to stopping right here, but remember, we only did one number at a time. So now I need to use that 4, and you bring it down, and now you're looking for 34. So again, we use one number at a time because 84 was too big to try to make a list for. So first we look for the 8. Now we need to look for the 4, but when I subtract it, I can't just leave that 3 out. So I'm looking for 34. So let's take my list a little further down. And I'm looking for 34 without going over. Remember, always go extra than what you think the answer is so that you can be sure. So I'm going to use 5 times 6, which is 30. 6 goes on top. 30 at the bottom, I subtract and get 4. Now I'm done because there's nothing else up here that I have not used. So I circle my important numbers. Same steps, just bigger numbers. Bottom number stays the same. Whatever's on top of the house is my whole number. So 16 is on top of the house. It's my whole number, stands alone. And 4 is my remainder. I cannot simplify because 4 and 5 right beside each other when I count. So 16 and 4/5.